You're watching a Hanford Communities issue briefing, highlighting important environmental cleanup issues at the U.S. Department of Energy's Hanford site in southeastern Washington, issues affecting citizens of the Pacific Northwest and the nation. The Hanford Communities organization was established in 1994 and is comprised of the communities surrounding the Hanford site, forming one voice to advise the Department of Energy on important transition and cleanup issues.
And now, Hanford Communities presents the Department of Energy's Vision for Integrated Tank Waste Treatment.
Hi, and welcome to another Hanford Communities issue briefing. I'm Rob Roxburgh. In today's program, we'll talk about the Department of Energy Office of River Protection's Integrated Project Management System and its approach to treating Hanford's tank waste as early as practicable through direct feed of low activity waste, otherwise known as DF law. DF law calls for tank waste to be sent to a new low activity waste pretreatment system, or LOPS facility, where high-level solids are filtered out and cesium-137 is removed. High-level waste will be returned to the tank farms, but the remaining low-activity waste will be transferred directly to the Low Activity Waste Vitrification facility for immobilization. Stainless steel containers filled with the vitrified waste will be transported to the nearby integrated disposal facility for permanent disposal, and effluents will go to a separate facility for treatment. By adopting the DF law option, low-activity waste immobilization can begin prior to completion of the waste treatment plant's pretreatment and high-level waste facilities. But it's a complicated process involving a number of organizations. With us today to shed some more light on the topic are Kevin Smith, Manager of the Department of Energy Office of River Protection, and Jane Hedges, Manager of the Washington State Department of Ecology's Nuclear Waste Program. Welcome.
It's a privilege to be here and to share with you a little bit of what the Office for Protection is doing to accommodate and try to get glass as soon as practicable for the Department of Energy. If you would, first I have a couple posters. I'd like to first remind folks of what the Office for Protection is and our mission. And our mission is really to safeguard the nuclear waste in Hanford's 177 underground waste tanks. Do that in a safe manner until we can safely disposition the waste into a safe form for disposal. And in this particular case, it has to do with putting it into glass. There's a vision statement that our office updated this year, and I think it's a pretty reasonable one. I'll read it to you. The vision statement is to be a high-performing, innovative organization that is safety-conscious and employee-focused and committed to achieving our mission with environmental and fiscal responsibility. Now that's a pretty good statement for any organization to have, but that gives you the focus that our organization has and the responsibility we take to get it done. The next slide, please. I think most of you are completely familiar with Hanford and the Columbia River. If you look at the center part of that chart, you'll see the little yellow band that's located on the central plateau, and that's the Office of River Protection scope is located in that yellow area. Next slide, please. So taking a look from looking to the west, you will see that the waste treatment plant at the bottom of the picture under construction. Then the little green and blue annotations there are tank farms. You can have the ones closest to us are the East Tank Farm, and in the distance you see the West Tank Farm. So that there are about 7 miles between the two tank farms, and that gives you the responsibility of the Office of River Protection. So in 2012, the department had recognized that the pretreatment facility needed more scientific and technical analysis to make sure that the facility would operate safely. And as a result, we have started a full-scale vessel test program to be able to address the scientific and technical issues of a plant that's so large that there is no equivalent one in the world. And as a result, that has caused us to have a little bit of a tiered readiness in the facilities. Most of the facilities that support the waste treatment plant, such as the steam plant, the switch yards, the ammonia plant and facility, are all done. So as a result, or nearing completion, I should say is a better way. So let me just rephrase it. Of the 22 rough support facilities, about 20 of them are very close to being completed. and the others will be very shortly. So that we have a plant with all of the support facilities in the analytical lab in a pretty good state of completion, where we have the pretreatment and the high-level waste facility that will take us a little longer. So as a result, we have facilities that could potentially be used early. And so I will point you to the chart here, and if you look on the left-hand side, the concept of the waste treatment plant was to take the single shell tanks up in the top left corner, transfer that material into the double shell tanks, and then the double shell tanks feed directly into the pretreatment facility of the waste treatment plant. Well, the pretreatment facility then would separate the solids to the high-level waste facility and mostly liquids to the low-activity waste facility. Unfortunately, since pretreatment is the facility that has the technical and scientific issues we have to solve, there is no alternative way to get the material to the low-activity waste facility, which will be done much sooner. If you go to the next slide. So we have looked at the best, most logical way to operate the facilities, and really we have looked at a potential phase startup of the activities, and to do what we call direct feed law, DF law, in order to operate both the law facility early and get rid of a lot of the most mobile liquid form of the waste, and also to preserve the investment in the rest of the facilities. You don't want to complete a facility and then put it in mothball status for a period of time, because that's expensive, and then you have issues with maintenance of facilities like that. So if you look at this chart, you will see that on the bottom on the bottom row there's a purple box about how do we create a different way to feed the low activity waste facility, and that would require something that separates the cesium and some elements of strontium from the waste feed and allow it then to go to the low activity waste facility, or again, direct feed law. In order to accommodate that, we'd have to have a little bit of evaporative capability and some little additional plumbing, if you will, to make it work right. So that is the direct feed law concept, and that allows us then, if you will, to start dispositioning waste as soon as practical, and allow us then to operate the plant the way it was intended and preserve that investment until the high-level waste facility and the pretreatment facility come online. So that is the direct feed law plan that the Department of Energy has put in our proposal to the state to modify the consent decree. But it's also a very rational and reasonable way to get waste treatment plant operating and eliminating some of the liquid waste as soon as possible. So in order to do that, we have today we have a tank farm contractor and we have a construction contractor. One is operations of a nuclear facility, the other one is building the plant. So in order to marry the two together, we have updated and recommissioned a program. It's a program called One System. And that One System is designed to then integrate the tank farm with the waste treatment plant. We have two different contracts. We have two different standards, two different missions, two different cultures. And we have to find a way to get all of that married together. So over the past year, we have been working at a different level of integration activity. We have a series of what we call integration control documents, so that the pitch and catch match. The waste feed that the tank farm is preparing meets the criteria that the waste treatment plant can process. And we've added on the requirement to put all of the criteria for the direct feed law program as well. So this One System has really been a great program for us. It's an integrator of par excellence. It has driven efficiencies. It's validated our flow sheet. It has created performance metrics. It has found many efficiencies. We are just validating the ones that they have brought us, that they've tallied up for this year, and is roughly $150 million in savings and efficiencies this year. And that's there will be benefits for us for many years to come by the way that the intellectual work this group has done. So what I wanted to share with you then was the concept the Department of Energy has put forward and what we're working to now, and that's the direct feed law with an integration program that marries the tank farm and the waste treatment plant together. That is, again, the One System program. So that are the two key things that I wanted to share with you today, and where we're going, and give you an idea of what we've planned and how we're doing it.
I'm with the State of Washington Department of Ecology, the Nuclear Waste Program, which is housed here in Richland. And we are the regulatory oversight body for the State of Washington on the Hanford cleanup. And we have an agreement with Department of Energy and EPA that sets kind of a roadmap for that cleanup. It's called the Tri-Party Agreement, and we have some other agreements with the Office of River Protection under a consent decree in terms of scheduling of getting the waste treatment plant up and running. So the number one priority for the state of Washington is getting waste out of the old aging tanks that are on the central part of Hanford. There's 56 million gallons mixture of a chemical and radiological stew of material, and to get that out, to treat it in the most robust way, which is what the waste treatment plant will do, and then to have it in glass and then buried, the low activity waste on the central part of Hanford, and the high level waste taken to a deep geologic repository. So in addition to being a regulator, we consider ourselves a partner with energy, a partner with our communities to get this cleanup done so that we can first and foremost protect the Columbia River, which is not only just a jewel for our community, but the whole Pacific Northwest. So we have been working for a number of years with the Office of River Protection and with Kevin's group on the waste treatment plant. And we recognize the challenges that they have had on the pretreatment and the complexity of that facility. And we strongly support the new phased proposal for the direct feed law process that they have brought forward to us in their proposal for the consent decree amendments. We also match that with our proposal to the court. We think for a number of reasons it's a very good way to go, many of which Kevin mentioned. First, it gets waste out of tanks and into the actual glass configuration, so we're treating waste, but it also gives Department of Energy and their contractors the ability to start operation of one of these complex facilities. Our original plan was to start them all up at the same time, and they are, as Kevin said, a single most complex chemical treatment facility probably in the world. And so doing it in this phased, we believe, will help us all in terms of understanding how to safely run and operate that facility and then move on to the next facilities. Also, as Kevin mentioned, those facilities many of them are completed, and the low activity waste facility itself is very near completion. So being able to use that facility and not have to mothball it or have the equipment sit without use for a number of years is also, we believe, a very positive step. And for us, we are dedicating resources to help move that project forward. And that's where we intersect with the One System group that Kevin talked about. That group has integrated all our permitting requirements into their planning for the One System process so that our permitting process does not become in some way the long pole in the tent, if you will, for completing the work and being able to start it up. It allows us to fully understand and be integrated into the understanding the operation of the facility, how it's going to operate, how it's going to be completed, and also understanding the technical issues that they are working today to resolve to get that facility up and running. So that is the state's role and the state's direction. Again, we support this. We understand both sides, both the construction side and the feed side that Kevin spoke about, and the importance of integrating those so that we can get this plant up and running in the near term.
Let's turn the time now over to our audience for some follow-up questions.
Kevin, how does the DF law kind of fit into the priorities for ORP?
Well, safety of our workforce and our activities is the number one priority regardless. And then the direct feed law is a high priority for us to integrate and operate, and we pay very close attention to it every day. But we have a nuclear tank farm to complete, and we have a construction project to complete. But right now we are working it as our number one mission activity to drive to glass as soon as practical.
This is for both of you, starting with Kevin. So we've heard you on a number of occasions talk about one system. Can you tell us why you think that's so important and why there's such a need for it? And then for Ms. Hedges, could you also tell us your perception and your feeling toward the one system?
So thank you for the question about the importance of one system. It may turn out to be the singular most important thing we've done in the last year to make this an effective plant, because one system establishes the integration, the standards, the links between programs, the contractual changes that need to be made, the activities that we have to ensure that the whole plant drives to operation. There are many, many things that have to match up right when you operate a nuclear facility.
Thank you. As Kevin said, the one system we think is just absolutely a necessity, and Department of Energy has big jobs at Hanford. All their contractors have very important work they're doing, and so they each have distinct missions and priorities, and so the one system drives those the priorities together so that they're working in lockstep.
Good morning, Diane Howard with the Port of Benton. So will the Law pretreatment facility actually be replacing the WT pretreatment facility?
The Law facility will not replace the pretreatment facility. The Law facility right now is only optimized for a certain level of radioactivity and for the liquids. We'll still need a process to be able to disposition the solids and to process those solids. So the high-level waste facility and the pretreatment facility will both be needed in their capacities in the future.
I'm Bob Suyama. I represent the Benton County on the Hanford Advisory Board. I want to applaud your one system concept. What other options have you looked at for the cesium instead of putting it back in the tanks and process it?
Your question on whether putting cesium back in the tanks is what the other thoughts are around whether there are other options. The answer is we absolutely would prefer not to put the cesium back in the tanks. But in the short term, we know that gaining double shell tank space is almost like gold. So what we're doing with the facility is we are plumbing it for the ability to remove cesium-2 by adding on that capability when we have a disposition path and when we can get the permits and the agreements and the waste determinations necessary to do that. We have a very active program trying to think through that and to find a better way to do it. So, but in the short term, the number one priority is really to gain double shell tank space and eliminate as much of the liquid as you can so that it can't possibly leak into the environment. So we've taken the first risk, and we're working towards, if there's an optimization, that we can not have to put the cesium back in the tanks as well.
Rick Miller, Franklin County Commissioner. Just wondering what benefits has the one system provided for Office of River Protection so far?
The benefits for one system have been wide and deep. It has given us the integrated activity. It has given us confidence that we have exactly the right structure, that the activities are interfaced and match right. It has found efficiencies. It has defined criteria between the tank farm and the waste treatment plant that didn't exist or finalized that should have been done years ago. And so it has been an extremely valuable process to us. As I mentioned, I have metrics now, performance metrics, that I can clearly track and look for efficiencies and look for optimization and know if I've slipped a day. I think let me mention permits for a second, and I'll pass the mic over to Ms. Hedges. We have to have 34 permit actions that we determined in order to get the whole project up and operating. Because of the optimization, we've already found a way to combine or eliminate 2. And we have given the lead time on these permits to the Ecology Department so that they can do their staffing and preparation and training, and we can meet that schedule. So just the intellectual work of a fully resource-loaded, integrated schedule has been tremendously valuable.
Thank you. As Kevin said, it's allowed us to see what permitting schedule and expectations are out there in order for the Department of Energy to get this facility started up and operating, and that's been very helpful for us in terms of resource. It's also helped us to understand the overall schedule and what that looks like and what the various elements are, particularly with the new facilities like the pretreatment. That will be a wholly new facility that we'll be permitting and working with them on, and being able to have that communication with their, lead engineers and folks in the one system about process and schedule and timing.
Will the consent decree litigation impact startup for the direct feed law?
As you well know, the consent decree litigation currently is in federal court, and that specific details are both left with the attorneys for the moment. But I would say that we will see what the outcome of the consent decree is and how that affects our program activities. Hopefully, the logic and the value of direct feed law will come out in the end.
I agree with Kevin. The court is looking at all that, but I think it is a place where, from the beginning, we have agreed that it's the best process to go through, that the phased construction is positive for both the state and for the Department of Energy. And so we are assuming that the court will recognize that as well and see where that agreement lies between our two proposals.
Do you think that the funding profiles that the department's put together is going to assist you in getting the pre-law up and running? And I think it'd be interesting what the state thinks in regards to the funding profiles as well.
Well, Kevin certainly can speak more directly to the actual funding profiles and where they see. I think the state is very encouraged by the continued support for the Office of River Protection. We have strongly, from the most senior levels of Washington state government, supported and encouraged both the Department of Energy and, where we could, certainly our congressional delegation, who has been extremely supportive of Hanford and Hanford cleanup overall, that this is critical and that it is funding that basically will be a lot of what will keep us from meeting our goals. It is costly, and we all recognize that, and it is very complex. And so to keep moving forward, the state wants to support in any way we can the Office of River Protection getting the funding that they need to move this project in a positive direction.
Currently, the President's budget supports the Office of River Protection's phased strategy, and but there's a lot of competition in the cleanup world for these dollars. Other states have other priorities as well, and so there is quite a degree of competition for these dollars. So I would say at this point in time, looking at the President's budget, yes, it does support ORP. So I'd like to again thank you for the opportunity to share with you the direct feed law concept that we are working on, as well as the one system approach to marrying the program together and to drive to operations that will lead toward eventually dispositioning the low activity waste glass and all of the glass in the waste tanks eventually. So it's a very optimum, appropriate, effective way of doing business. I think in many ways it's just good government, that it uses the taxpayers' dollars very effectively, and with that, it uses the taxpayers' dollars in a way that's just efficient and effective. And so I think that the community should be quite pleased of both of these programs.
That's all the time that we have today. We want to thank our audience for their attendance and participation, our panelists for being with us and providing the information, and we want to thank you for joining us. Again, this has been another Hanford Communities Issue Briefing.
To find out how you can become more involved in this important regional issue, or to have a Hanford Communities speaker talk to your organization, contact the Hanford Communities at 509-942-7348 or by fax at 509-942-7379 or visit our website